The meeting of the Plaquemines Council as sole governing authority of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District will now come to order. The machine is open for roll call. Let the record reflect that all 9 commissioners are present. If we'll rise, Commissioner Newsom will do the prayer, followed by Commissioner LaFrance for the pledge.
Please bow. We take this moment to acknowledge Almighty God and thank Him for our bountiful blessings, especially for the parish's natural resources. We give thanks to God for our brave and courageous men and women in our military who daily risk their lives to protect our precious freedom. And we pray for our world leaders to know how to obtain world peace. We pray that this governing body, comprised of both council and administration, will always serve our parish with honesty, humility, and equality to all. And as this governing body gathers here today, we pray for the wisdom to know right from wrong and the courage to do which is right. Amen.
Amen.
I will pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. Welcome, everyone. Whoever brought the rain, I thank you. Before we begin, if you have I was going to say a pager. If you have your cell phone, put it on silent or vibrate. Thank you. Next item.
Item 2, executive session. There are none. 3, status report by the executive port director.
So, good afternoon. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yeah. That's it.
You good?
Okay. Can you hear me okay?
No.
Still not on.
It's on my end.
Good afternoon.
No.
Okay. All right, good afternoon, and in the spirit of how I start all of our Port Commission meetings, I'd like to just state that we all, face challenges that are outside of our control many times, and in the words of Marcus Aurelius, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. So, good afternoon, and last week we presented the State of the Port address under the 2023 formed Port Staff and Port Commission. The overwhelming attendance and the resoundingly positive feedback we've received affirm our shared vision of growth and progress. This vision can only be realized through the Port's steadfast partnership with our parish, and we collectively strive to bolster infrastructure and fuel prosperity. So just shifting to talk a little bit about the saltwater intrusion issue, in acknowledgement of the saltwater state of emergency declaration, we at the Port reaffirm our unwavering commitment to exploring innovative water treatment and delivery methods. That's with the parish. These endeavors not only support the Port's expansion, but also bolster the parish's production and processing capacity, solidifying our region's resilience. Shifting to our rail infrastructure, we continue to advance in the certification of Phase 2 within our ambitious 11-mile rail extension project. We are evaluating the Phase 2 deliveries as we speak, and our strategy is to finalize the acceptance details with all the stakeholders, paving the way for the seamless transition to Phases 3 and 4. Meetings I'm personally thrilled to share the success of our recent meetings in Washington, D.C. We engaged with key entities, including the United States Department of Transportation, the Federal Rail Administration, United States Maritime Administration, the American Association of Port Authorities, and many of our esteemed legislators. The group that we traveled with included the Port, Plaquemines Parish, Jefferson's Parish, City of Gretna, the New Orleans Gulf Coast Railway, and a consultant to the City of Gretna, CSRS. And we collectively championed the development of a transformative rail project solution that will not only alleviate regional maritime and transportation growth, but also contribute significantly to the great state of Louisiana. Now moving to the piano keys on behalf of Ms. Foss. She is on vacation this week, a well-deserved vacation at that. And I will say, as I go into my comments here, I am making a change on the fly. But I think we all recognize that the acquisition of land in the Piano Keys area is of utmost importance for the growth of the port. And we recognize that this is a sensitive process to the community. Today, we showed up prepared to vote for the properties for Mr. Wynn, Mr. Rouse, and Ms. Ankar. We also showed up prepared to defer Mr. Fleming for another 2 weeks to await a final report on appraisal for a modular home and a home inspection. But with that, what I will say is our process has been fair. Each council member, you should have a spreadsheet in front of you. And one of the things that I would like to make sure that I point out on the spreadsheet is that there are 3 properties here that I just mentioned. That is Mr. Rouse, Mr. Wynn, and Ms. Ankar. All of those properties, when you look at what the properties were purchased for and where we're at with appraised value plus 20% today, is above 200%, some well above 200%. And you could see that the port has collectively worked with different appraisers over an extended period of time with at least 3 appraisals for each property. So I think the port has spent probably on average about $8,500 for each property with multiple appraisals. So we have been fair, and we still have some challenges in front of us, but I just wanted to make sure that we pointed that out on the spreadsheet. That said, I've had personal communication with Mr. Wynn today. I've had personal communication with Mr. Rouse. And I received a text message from Mrs. Ankar. And so what I would like to propose is that we go ahead and defer the 3 of those until 2 weeks from now to the next council meeting. And with that, I propose that the port and our realtor and our attorneys work closely with these individuals to go over all of the details to ensure that we dot the i's and cross the t's, and that we resolve any perceived unresolved issues.
Before you go, move, could you tell us the 3 deferral you're speaking about?
So that will be Mrs. Ankar, Mr. Rouse, and Mr. Wynn.
Excuse me, Mr. Tillotson. I didn't have Ankar. Melissa told me to vote as is.
That is correct. We are making that change on the fly.
Okay.
Yes.
Dr. Fern Fleming?
Now.
Yes.
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Yes. So that said, I'm going to transfer the floor over to Mr. Brown to finish discussions on the security boats and ferry side. But one of the things that I would like to just take a moment and elaborate on is the last council meeting, I mentioned that the port is prepared to take emergency actions on the Point LaHash ferry landing on the West Bank. We learned over the last couple of months this summer that the DOTD plan for making the completing the final construction is going to be approximately 4 years. And we just deem that that is just too long for us to wait. So we are prepared to do what it takes over the next 12 months to get the East Bank ferry landing, to make some cosmetic upgrades to it, but more importantly, to correct the deficiencies identified by the DOTD on the West Bank. And we do have a task order in place to start that process with Infinity Engineering, and that process has already been initiated. But I just wanted to reiterate, we are committed to making sure that the parish has the appropriate public transportation routes as it relates to our ferry system. With that, I'd like to transfer the floor to Mr. Brown.
All right, good evening. First up, we're going to talk about the new ferry boat. We had a great conversation with DOTD, myself and our ferry manager, about our preference for the new ferry boat. The timeline still stands at 4 years. However, the contracting department within LADOTD, they're wrapping up, finalizing everything before it goes for bid. Moving on, we're going to talk about port construction and expansion. We're pleased to report that we are approved for funding and a reimbursement agreement with DOTD, and we're motivated that we're going to find every way possible with our consultant to expedite the process, and that also means alleviating congestion along Highway 23. Now, moving forward, the port, we're real excited and motivated by this next piece, that we're in position, this port as well as many ports across the U.S., to leverage grant opportunities. There's many great funding sources that's available under the current administration that ports can apply for. Now, we're allocating estimated around $7 million for around $53 million of the total grant expenses that we apply for this year. We expect to hear notice for the first grant that we put in back in April, around the beginning of the year or the end of this year. Now, moving forward with the ferry service, another thing we're also excited, and Ms. McNair is going to talk about it next, is today we launched a ferry app. With this app, it allows us to have more audit controls over the cash the ferry department takes. It also adds transparency to where the ferry is at all times. Ultimately, the vision for this port is to embrace technology. Technology is going to make our operations seamless. And then last but not least, Mr. Tillotson already spoke on the Point LaHash ferry landings. This is at the top of our list. We already issued the task order number 3 to Infinity. They started last board meeting with assessing everything that needs to happen with the Point LaHash landings. Now, the West Point LaHash landing was the one that's condemned. However, the East Point LaHash landing we will receive the recommendations by DOTD, our contractor, for the repairs that need to happen to it as well. Now, I would like to reiterate that the new construction of the Point LaHash landings will happen, but between engineering design and construction, 4 years is too long to wait for this to happen. So from last board meeting, we estimated around the beginning of Q4 of next year to have the ferry service back in Point LaHash. That concludes my comments. Up next is Mr. Nelson.
Good afternoon. On the human resource side, the port had a highly successful meeting with Civil Service Commission on September the 20th, during which we were able to secure some corrections to some of our positions at that time. However, we're still dealing with a low volume of applicants. We remain optimistic that the due pay plan adjustments will help maybe generate some interest. We also successfully onboarded 3 additional deckhand positions, but are still facing a shortage of captains. And to address this, we've proactively contacted some temp agencies and some recruiting firms to, as an additional resource. On the financial front, the finance department is diligently working on the 24 operating budgets. And we've also reached out to our insurance carriers to obtain quotes for our 24 renewal premiums. Next week, we will initiate the process of sending out our RFP packets for our annual fuel bids.
Good afternoon. On the communication side, as Mr. Tillotson mentioned, we would like to thank everyone for their attendance at the State of the Port address with Pobby. For an overview of the presentation, the Plaquemines Gazette actually has a story on their front page about that. We attended the Offshore Wind Conference with NOLA Terminals on September 21st and 22nd in New Orleans. This was a successful event, and we were able to connect with other ports, including the Port of Morgan City and the Port of Lake Charles. We'd like to announce that there will be 2 town halls next week to discuss the Point Lahash ferry ramp status, as Mr. Brown discussed. One in District 1 on Monday at the Percy Griffin Community Center for 6 p.m., and then one in District 7 on Tuesday at the Port Sulphur YMCA for 6 p.m. We would like to encourage resident attendance. Flyers for each event can be found on our Facebook pages. And also, as mentioned, the Port has launched a ferry app. You can find this by searching in your app store. It is also on our website. Details and how to download and utilize the app are going to be posted to social media within the next week. And you can find these links on portofplaquemines.com. And we continue to post our ongoing updates to social. Please follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter at Plaquemines Port. And I'll pass the floor back to Mr. Tillotson.
Thank you. And one of the things that I would like to make sure that I emphasize, we do have the financial reports in front of all of the commissioners, and our unrestricted fund balance is $21.6 million, I think. And that may seem like the port is, in a great financial position, which we are proud of the position that we're in and the opportunities in front of us to improve upon that. I would like to just emphasize to the council and to the public that we do have some commitments. We've applied, as Mr. Brown spoke about, we've applied for about $53 million in grants, and we have a commitment with those grants of actually matching approximately $7 million. I'd also like to point out that the water booster station grant that we received from DOTD, from the Port Infrastructure Fund, but it is a great opportunity for us, and I think that it's going to benefit port growth as well as the public all the way down to Venice. However, we're only receiving up to $5 million per year, up to 4 years, to be able to fund that project. We have a reimbursement agreement in place, but I just want to point out that we have a nice unrestricted fund balance now, but we will be working closely with Mr. Surpass on our 24 budget and making sure that we allocate funding appropriately. But I thought it was just very important to make sure that I, emphasize those commitments so that we all understand that, though the port's in a great position, we are continuing to try to grow, and we are going to need those resources. With that, I close.
Thank you, sir. At this time, if there's anyone in the public that would like to comment, now's the time to do it.
Arthur Henry, Belchase. Mr. Tillotson, you mentioned the railroad extension. Could you tell the public about how long it's going to take for us to finish that deal, to get that intellectual property there?
Mr. Tillotson, I think it would be appropriate to give a little overview
Sure.
for the public of both the extension and the bypass, timelines or whatever you think's appropriate.
Yes, I think, Mr. Henry, I know at least you definitely remember we've had some healthy dialogue about the bypass versus the 11-mile extension. They are two separate projects. So the 11-mile extension is under the Sustainability Partners Agreement, and we are at a point of finalizing Phase 2. We have an additional 2 phases to go. We're at 30% design now. Depending upon the outcome of some very important meetings over the next week, will drive when we start that notice to proceed. I estimate that when we start up again, and we have to get started again, but phases 3 and 4 should take us no more than 6 months to finish that intellectual property. So that's the 11-mile extension.
That's all I want to know.
Well, let me give you one other part.
Or you could do the other part.
So I think yourself and the public should definitely understand that we just went with a entourage to Washington, D.C., including with Jefferson Parish's president and the city of Gretna's mayor. And we have a CEA in place, and it was heard loud and clear in Washington, D.C., that we all came in the room together, and we're working together to build out a transformative rail bypass that's not only going to be good for this region, but it's going to be good for the state of Louisiana.
Good. Hey, I support the effort. Just keep the public informed.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it, as always.
Drexel Narcisse, 17977 Highway 15. Mr. Tillotson, you talked about buying the property, and you said you got what the people originally paid for it. I know my family property, my great-grandmother bought that probably in 1800 something, probably $800. So that wouldn't be a fair price. So how far back are you going with this?
Yeah, Mr. Tillotson, on your the sheet that you gave out, which is public information, we'd be more than happy to share each piece of property and the day it was purchased. We're talking about 4 pieces, well, yeah, 4, on the 3 that we have on our sheet.
Right.
And it would be, I think it would be advantageous to go through that sheet briefly and let the public know what we've been dealing with and what the landowners have been dealing with.
So you're saying go through it briefly?
I would say this, before you do that, because I think in due respect for the landowners, while it's public, I think there's a process that individuals need. I don't know if those individuals are really ready to put this stuff out there for blast for everybody. So I'm not in favor of putting what we act, but I can tell you this, Mr. Narcisse, that they have been working with owners doing appraisal price for what's happening in the current time that we're in. I would hate to put any one of these landowners' price of stuff out there to the public personally. So I just think that, and I know that's not what you're trying to do. So I just think, Dr. Gore, if anybody wants to know what appraisal did for each one of these individual landowners, that they go to the public request, do it, well, we just do it in an open forum like that. That's me personally.
Yeah, and I
You
think.
know,
offense to you, Mr.
property has
Nelson.
been passed down from generation to generation, so you can't.
I guarantee you they're not doing it based on that.
Yeah, let me,
Current market value.
yeah, and Lloyd, I think the dates, you were worried about the dates.
So you're talking about current market value.
But the dates we go back to is
I think he said.
1998, 2018, 2011.
Yeah.
So 98, 08, and 2011. So they're not like not the 50s or anything like that.
All right, but
I think that's what
if
you're.
that was the case, though.
What?
If that was the case.
Correct. But that's why we did 3 appraisals on each one of these properties to get the fair market value, as Mr. Edwards said.
Yeah, and Mr. Narcisse, what we're really looking at is when it was purchased by the owner, the current owner.
Current owner.
And what it's appraised at today. So, and that window varied from property to property.
All right, thank you.
Good afternoon. I am Tori Ankar Olin with Lot 7. I would like to just speak on some of my encounters with this process of the takeover. I keep getting told that the port is being fair and looking out for the people, also that negotiations would be made. It seems very one-sided from the very beginning. Not one amount, other than the figures that the port presented, have ever been considered. When it was realized that I would not be pushed by the fear tactics to hurry and sign the PSA, I was told to find my own appraiser, and we could renegotiate from there. I began my search right away. I contacted 31 appraisers in the area and outside of the area. Not one would accept the job. I was told blatantly no, I had no return calls, and once the property address was provided, I received no responses. It's hard to believe that 31 appraisers within the area are just unprofessional. It's hard to believe that. But eventually I did find an appraiser outside of the area. I was told upfront that it would take about 3 to 4 weeks for the contract, once my contract was accepted, and it was received on September 6th. So my check was cashed, and the contract was signed and received definitely by September 6th. I appreciate the extension for the appraisal to come in because my appraisal still has not taken place. But I was told as of today, it didn't matter, basically. They were going to take the land. They would not wait for my appraisal to come in. I'm not here today to take advantage of this circumstance. I'm simply requesting a fair market value for our prime piece of property on the Mississippi River. When an individual cannot purchase half of the property and the acreage that you currently own in today's market with the amount of money that's being offered to you, how is that considered fair value? I've also found properties for sale in the area, raw land, uncleared land, major flood zones, below the flood walls, 1.2 acres, $80,000, 1.3 acres, $105,000, 1.4 at $115,000, and not on the river, 1.1 at $80,000 and $100,000. I would just like to be explained on how the port's figures for fair value seem fair, valid, or appropriate. They want and need our land. So the people seem to suffer and the port just bullies their way through and take what they wish at the prices that they choose. Ultimately, I'm very clear that the land will be taken. Okay, there isn't much I can do about it. But I do believe that I have a right to question unfair value for expropriation. Land has been taken from the residents in Plaquemines Parish for decades, sometimes with no compensation at all. Preconceived assumptions that once the government implies that they would take the land for the greater good of the people and for the parish, residents reluctantly comply, feeling hopeless for any resolution in their favor. The history of land takeovers are not unheard of, but if all of this is for the public use and the good of the people, why is it still in 2023, with the highest inflation rates in 40 years, it still seems unfair and unjust to the people for private gain? Also, in my process through with the port and realtors, I have actually had emails retracted from my inbox. I've had attachments deleted and changed, and inconsistent stories being told. So we're supposed to trust and believe that what the port is telling us and doing is for the residents of Plaquemines Parish, but why are those types of behaviors taking place if they're looking out for the best interests of us? Also, in comparison to what he was stating earlier, how can they say value on the purchase price when it's an investment piece of property that was purchased and you're gonna value what we're currently living in these times to offer a fair value? 22 years ago. You know, I just don't understand how fair value is accumulated when I can't utilize the amount of money that's being presented, not even half, to purchase the amount of acreage that I currently have. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone at the table? Any comments for Mr. Tillotson, or any comments based on his report? Cue in.
Yeah, I want to thank you, Tilton, for doing that extension, because we had some serious conversation about it. So I appreciate you extending that 2 weeks extension.
Thank you.
Next item.
4, bids and advertisements, there are none. 5, introduction of ordinances and resolutions.
The following introductions are all under Commissioner Gui. A resolution authorizing and directing the Port Executive Director, Charles D. Tillotson, to enter into discussions with the Plaquemines Parish government concerning the transfer of bond funds identified previously by the Plaquemines Parish government for replacement of the ferry ramps and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to amend the Port Harbor and Terminal District's 2023 operating expenditure budget, various divisions, various line items for changes in personal services, cost, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance of the Plaquemines Parish Council acting as the sole governing authority of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District to provide for the random drug testing of unclassified employees of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance authorizing and directing Charles D. Tillotson, Executive Director of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District, to have the Port's legal counsel file a petition pursuant to Louisiana Constitution, LARS 19:2.1 et sec, as well as all other applicable laws to expropriate via a taking that certain land owned by Twine Wynn or their successors in title, which property is commonly referred to as lots 55 and 56, totaling 29.39 acres, and with a legal description of Lot 55, Point Celeste Farm Subdivision Phase 2, a 354-foot front on Highway 23 by 1,710.11 feet by 353.94 feet by 1,705.78 feet, and Lot 56, Point Celeste Farms Phase 2, 395 feet front on Highway 23 by 1,714.94 feet by 1,710.11 feet by 394.93 feet, with a more formal legal description of said property attached hereto as Exhibit A and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance authorizing Charles Tillotson, Executive Director of the Plaquemines Port Harbor District, to purchase land owned by Norman Rose and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. That's it.
Thank you.
6, ordinances and resolutions on second reading and final passage. 6A1 through 6A4 will be deferred. 6B, an ordinance authorizing Charles D. Tillotson, Executive Director of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District, to enter into a Water Resources Development Act, Section 214, agreement with U.S. Army Corps of Engineers not to exceed $200,000 and to amend the 5-year capital improvements plan, WRRDA Sec 214 Corp Agreement Project, and otherwise to provide with respect to Commissioner Gui.
I'll offer, ask for a second. Seconded by Commissioner Champagne. This has been discussed several times, Mr. Tillotson. It's my understanding that the Corps has a provision whereby an entity can enter into this Section 2.4 agreement with the Corps, which will allow our projects to be assigned to an individual rather than just be put in the hopper. And the purpose of that is to expedite permits and whatever else would go with the Corps. Is there anything you can elaborate?
Yes, that's correct. I mean, the Section 214 agreement just allows us to to capture a dedicated resource so that our projects go to the front of the line. We have approximately 12 projects right now, either infrastructure related or port expansion related, that we're looking at over the next 4 or 5 years. And it is imperative that we constantly stay on top of those timelines. And one of the biggest delays that have been a problem for a lot of our partners and for the port, for a couple of projects, is sometimes the permitting phase just takes too long. So this is going to shorten that permitting window.
Thank you, sir. I'll open the floor for public comment. Table is open. Anyone? Machine is open for a vote. Let's do that again. Machine is open for a vote. And the ordinance is approved unanimously. Next.
C, a resolution authorizing Charles Tilton, Executive Director of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District, to enter into a construction contract with Lemoyne to provide upgrades to the Alliance Water Booster Station and feed lines as outlined in Phase 1 of the project, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Commissioner Gooey.
I'll offer ask for a second.
Second.
Second by Commissioner LaFrance. Mr. Tillotson, I understand this is for the approval award the contract on this particular project. You wish to elaborate any more?
Yeah, I mean, that's correct. This is the Water Booster Station project that is actually funded by DOTD's Port Priority Fund. And it's a good example of how the port is working hand in hand with the parish in building out infrastructure along with port growth.
Thank you, sir. Any comments from the audience? Table? Anyone? Machine is open. Resolution is approved. 8 yeas and 1 abstention from District 5. Next item, please.
D, a resolution certifying that the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District complied with public bid laws regarding the Alliance Water Booster Station and feed lines project, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Commissioner.
I'll offer ask for a second.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Edwards. Again, this is an administrative process. There are some blanks. Those will be today. Dates will be filled in those blanks. Okay. Any public comment? Table? Machine is open. And the resolution is approved unanimously. Next item.
A resolution certifying that the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal complied with public bid laws regarding the Alliance Water Booster Station and feed lines project, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Commissioner Gooey.
I'll offer ask for a second.
Second.
Woo. Split it up. Mr. Konovich. Again, an administrative thing. Any thing further, Mr. Tillotson? This has to do with the Alliance and the.
Yeah, yes, it's just a formality with the state.
Right.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Tillotson, could you elaborate to the audience how much money it's going to cost for that project?
For the water booster station?
Yes.
It's going to be right around $19 million total.
And that's for the water booster station?
And
Plus,
about 15 miles of feed lines, 20-inch PVC pipe that will run alongside Highway 23 from Alliance to around Port Sulphur, Deer Range.
Finally getting it, huh? Your geography? We're gonna have a lesson next week on that.
Mr. Henry, you slipping.
Public comment first?
I just like, and where that $19 million coming from?
All but 10% of it is coming from DOTD
Okay.
through port priority funding. The port will match 10% of that funding. And I will say that we will receive $5 million this year. We'll finish the project in approximately 12 months, but the port will have to pay that the additional, somewhere in the neighborhood of $14 million and be reimbursed at approximately $5 million a year until it's paid off.
And Mr. France, I was just doing that because I wanted to make sure Arthur Henry didn't get up at all.
Okay, all right.
Public comment? Any public comment? Table, comments from the table? Anyone? Machine is open.
Councilmember Gooey?
Oh, me, yeah. And the resolution is approved, 9-0. Next item.
F, a resolution authorizing Charles Tilton, Executive Director of the Plaquemines Port Harbor and Terminal District, to enter into a construction contract with Lemoyne to provide upgrades to the Alliance Water Booster Station and feed lines as outlined in Phase 1 of the project and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Commissioner Gooey.
I'll offer.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner LaFrance. Again, an administrative thing to comply with the state.
Correct.
Any public comment or clarification needed? Yes, sir. Good to see you, Lawrence.
Yes, indeed.
I'm telling you.
You've been dearly missed.
Yeah, and I guess this is addressing from the water standard. You know, I see a lot of talk about the West Bank. And I question, the East Bank always had a problem with undersized water mains and everything. And I don't know what is, they're gonna have the same problems we have on the West Bank. And I don't hear nothing about lines being changed on the East Bank, booster stations on the East Bank, because I'm assuming you're gonna rely on St. Bernard to support you on the East Bank. I know you're shaking your head no, but,
Wait.
but
What I'd like to do, Mr. Lawrence, since that, the parish water system,
right,
we're just doing a piece of it here for the booster, and we like to keep on that topic.
okay,
But at the council, I mean, at the government meeting, I think
Okay.
it would be appropriate to.
Okay.
And Mr. Hinckley will probably give a report in reference to that.
But, okay,
Thank you, sir. Machine is open. And the resolution is unanimously approved. Next item.
G will be withdrawn. 7, new business, no items under 7A. 7B, approval of the September 14th, 2023 regular meeting minutes.
Mr. Newsom offers. So offered. Seconded by Commissioner Schultz. Machine is open on approval of the September 14th, 2023 meetings. Machine is open. Minutes are unanimously approved. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
all right.
Adjourned by everyone, but we'll give it to Edwards and Schultz. Machine is open. And this port meeting is adjourned at 3:44 PM.